presentation. CTV Channel 15 presents the High School Baseball Game of the Week, sponsored by the Chicago Tribune with Preps Plus, big league coverage of your community. Also by Pizzas by Marcelloni, with the best deep dish pan pizza in town, in cooperation with Continental Cablevision, where our quality shows.
Well, rain has caused a bit of a delay here at New Lenox to the start of this week's baseball game of the week, featuring the Lincoln Way Knights here at home on their New Lenox field against the visiting Bolingbrook Raiders of Coach Bruce Jerky. Hello again, everyone. Joe Passion back with you on our high school baseball game of the week here on Channel 15. And opening up the top of the first inning for Bolingbrook, Andy Nagy walked on 5 pitches against Chad Leadoff, the starting pitcher for the Lincoln Way Knights. And at the plate, chipping one away foul, is Tannehill, the second baseman. Number 8 Tannehill at the plate with an 0-2 count. The pitcher Chad Leadoff on the mound for the Lincoln Way Knights here today, on the season 2-0 with a 1.95 ERA. He's coming off a win against Bradley Bourbonnais on Saturday, and is here today on the mound after quite a bit of work has been done on the infield to make this a very playable field for the game. Swing and a miss, dropped by the catcher, but the umpire calls him out on the play. Our home plate umpire today is Pat McGinnis out of Joliet. He played high school baseball at Manuka. And our base umpire is Chuck Searing, also of Joliet, out of Joliet Central High School, a graduate of. Chad Leadoff with 1 out on the mound here for Lincoln Way, and that will bring to the plate for the Bolingbrook Raiders, Casey, the designated hitter. Big thing this year about the starting pitcher, Chad Leadoff, is not only is he coming off a 3-hitter in that win against Bradley Bourbonnais on Saturday, but he's made some really big strides in his velocity this year and in his breaking pitch, according to his manager, Dave Bernhard, as Casey swings at strike 1. And he throws an assortment of pitches, primarily going with his fastball, which he throws into the upper 70s, lower 80s, which is a pretty good to average fastball on the high school level. Also throws a curveball, a straight change, a slider, and a split finger, and a little quick hop to the second baseman, and gets through the legs of Jakovic, and the runner will have to hold at second. And there is an example of what the loose, wet turf of the infield may cause to base runners here in this ball game today. Lincoln Way right fielder going back to his position, Ron Grabrisco, and at second base, sliding back in there, is Andy Nagy. So Casey on with an air to the second baseman, Jakovic. And this is the problem that really haunted Lincoln Way on Monday night of this week when they lost 4-2 at Bolingbrook, committing a season-high 6 errors against the Bolingbrook Raiders. Raiders jumped on those Lincoln Way mistakes and pulled out a 4-2 victory. The only win in the SICA West of 3 outings thus far coming in here for Bolingbrook, and the only loss in as many outings for the Lincoln Way Knights. Here's a good look at Zagurski, the third baseman, as he swings away at strike 2. 1 out here in the top half of the first inning. The Lincoln Way Knights out on the field in their black jerseys with the white pants, the red, white, and black trim. The Bolingbrook Raiders in their red jerseys, the white and gray trim. Behind the plate for the Lincoln Way Knights here today is Jeff Meacher, who has been backing up the manager's son, Dave Bernhard Jr., who has been out of action the last couple of weeks due to mono, but he is back in uniform and may see some action today as leadoff is showing some action with that fastball on his second K of the inning. So that'll bring up Davish, the starting pitcher for Bolingbrook, at the plate. Davish called one of the hardest workers on the Bolingbrook Raider team by his manager, Bruce Gerke, and in the dirt, Metcher can't find it, finally chases it back to the screen, and both runners will advance from first and second to second and third. One thing the opposing teams certainly have to be aware of when they come in here to Lincoln Way High School to play is the depth behind home plate. If a ball gets away from the catcher, it's got a long way to go to get back to the backstop and allows runners an easy time of it out in the base pass. The wild pitch allowing Nagy to advance to third, and a hard shot to short. Picked up in the throw, and they've got a runner caught off, and a heads-up play by the Lincoln Way shortstop, Jerry Hanyon, comes through and tosses it over to the third baseman, Brett Schuster. And you'll hear those two names a lot. Not so much Brett and Scott as you will Schuster and Hanyon. They are the pair of identical twins on this Lincoln Way ball club. But in the top of the first for the Bolingbrook Raiders, they go down without any runs on the board. No hits, an error, and two men left aboard. We go to the bottom of the first. Bolingbrook nothing, and Lincoln Way coming to bat. Here's another good look at the heads-up play at shortstop after Davish hit a pretty solid grounder, but the shortstop comes up with it. Jerry Hanyon flips over to the third baseman, Brett Schuster, tagging out the runner at second base, Casey, for the force out. Davish getting the fielder's choice. On the mound for the Bolingbrook Raiders to open it up for them here today will be with a 2-2 record. Davish on the season in 22 innings pitched has given up 14 earned runs. He has also given up 26 hits, 4 of them doubles, and 5 home runs. But in those 22 innings, Davish can give the fans something to look at with strikeouts. He has K'd 19 batters in those 22 innings pitched, but has an ERA of 4.45. There's a good look at Davish with the cap up into the head of blonde hair. The Bolingbrook Raider defense out in the field from left to right. Kamen, the winning pitcher in Monday night's 4-2 victory over Lincoln Way, will be out in left field. The center fielder is Nagy, and in right field will be Kozuta. And from third to first for the Bolingbrook Raiders, Zagurski, Harmeyer, Tannehill, and Knoll. The catcher is Bigish, and the pitcher is Davish. Leading off for the Lincoln Way Knights as the Bolingbrook Raiders get their final little chalk talk out on the mound will be Brett Schuster, who made the tag out of the runner and the final out of the first. Schuster will be followed by Jakobic and Grabrisco for Coach Dave Bernhardt and the Lincoln Way Knights. And Schuster on the year has been batting .457. Dave Bernhardt likes the way Schuster's been swinging the bat, getting a lot of contact and hitting the ball hard, and also a good base runner. The 1-0 delivery and a bit high for ball 2. Tom Lewis, the longtime athletic director of the Lincoln Way Knights and the Lady Knights as well, up here and joining us in the phone booth, and still able to get some conversation in despite a painful visit to the dentist earlier this week. That's what I got from your message service earlier in the week, Tom.
Yeah, Joe, you get so busy around here doing all the work for the athletics, and you don't have time to go to the dentist, and those things happen, right?
A called strike on Brett Schuster. Well, I'll tell you, thank goodness there are numbers on the Schusters and Hanyons with all the twins running around on this Lincoln Way diamond. Just misses the inside corner of the plate, and the first batter, the Davish, the Bolingbrook Raider pitcher, faces, gets a base on balls, and so the Knights have a runner aboard. Coaching over at first base for the Lincoln Way Knights today is one of the players, pitcher Jason Goldie. And there you see the runner leading off as Scott Jakobic, the Lincoln Way second baseman, steps in a good healthy lead at first base. Squares away for the bunt, pulls back for a called strike 1. Well, Tom, I'll tell you, we've got to give hearty congratulations to the grounds crew here at Lincoln Way and Coach Bernhardt and his players, who after a very long, steady 20-minute rainfall came out here and just literally redid the field and have put it into very playable shape.
You know, Dave Drew's been with us a long time working on our grounds out here, and he just does a fantastic job. He takes a lot of pride in what he does, and this is an indication, the fact that we're getting this.
Affiliate Central Steelman of Coach John Rendich in another Sika West game. Our next high school baseball game of the week should be a dandy as well next week. The kick and the delivery and a ball on the outside corner of the plate, and the count goes to 1-2. And the on-deck circle will be Briscoe, who has proved not only can he carry a bat, but he can also throw a pitch. In the 22-0 Lincoln Way victory over Romeoville on Tuesday of this week, Briscoe threw his second no-hitter of the season. Well, I'll tell you, that is something when you can come out here and see a kid throw no-hitters and pound the ball like the Knights did the other night, Tom, especially after that 4-2 upset at Bolingbrook Monday night. Hard grounder, could get through the hole. Great diving stop. Throw over the second is not in time, but a great effort by Harmeyer, the shortstop for Bolingbrook. Harmeyer really got down there, and as we take another look, I'll tell you, Tom, if he would have stretched out any further, he might have touched second base himself. Ball hit hard to his right, really stretched out to get to it, and remarkably was able to throw it back to second on his knees, but not in time to catch the runners. So an infield single for Jakovic, and that puts Lincoln Way runners at first and second. And here is number 14, Ron Grabrisco.
You talking about Grabrisco before, and I know one of the question marks he had this year was his pitching, and he is getting some kids coming through and doing a fine job for him, as the record indicates.
The kick and the delivery and a bunt down the line, and with the high wet grass, that will go for an infield single. And the Knights have the bases loaded here in the bottom of the first with no score and one out. Check that, no outs. Well, that's one of the advantages, Tom, of having not only high grass here in the latter weeks of April, but after the rainfall prior to the start of this game, it's going to make bunts like that look like singles.
That's very true. I'll tell you, this spring has been really rare.
Here's Joel Zarnowski, the designated hitter. The one player on this team that Coach Bernhardt really feels has the power to send it out of here. And we have a very slight northeasterly wind at about maybe 8 to 10 miles an hour blowing out toward the left center field fence. It's 323 down the lines, 351 in left center. Ball in the dirt. Nice stop by the Bolingbrook catcher. Check that by the Bolingbrook catcher, Begich. 351 in the left center power alley, 362 in the right center alley, and 377 in straightaway center field. Zarnowski hitting 371 on the year, has one homer on the season, and again down in the dirt. The Bolingbrook infield is drawn in. We notice a big crowd out here on a great day, and we saw the softball team warming up much earlier in the afternoon when I got out here early, and boy, they're having a pretty good year this season too for Lincoln Way's girls.
They are having a nice year.
The delivery and a called strike one. So Zarnowski was waiting all the way on that 3-0 delivery. But I'll tell you what, being ahead of the pitcher, 3-1 with the bases loaded and no outs. Look for Zarnowski to go after this one, but he misses outside, and that will walk in the first run of the game and bring Bolingbrook manager Bruce Jerky out of the dugout. Nagy scoring after walking, advancing on a wild pitch, and then advancing on the infield bunt single. Check that, advancing on the bunt and then on the two bunts that followed. One to nothing Lincoln Way here, and Bruce Jerky in his third year now as head baseball coach here at the Bolingbrook Raiders. He currently teaches at Humphrey Junior High School in the Bolingbrook area, teaches math and science and physical education. Got a great baseball background, having played and Gone to school at Oak Park River High School for the great legendary Hall of Fame coach Jack Kaiser. The delivery to Schuster, and Scotty pops it up, but this could be trouble in shallow right center. It will drop in for an RBI single. One run will score. Everybody's held up, and the bases remain jammed. An RBI Texas League I got I single by Scott Schuster drives in the second run of the ball game as Jakovic scores, and a big hit there as watch this ball pop up, and it is trouble from the outset. 3 runners coming in, but the ball finds a spot in between all of them. Jakovic scores easily, and it's 2-0 Lincoln Way here in the bottom of the first, and that'll bring Jerry Hanyon to the plate, and he looks at a called strike one. Well, that will go down in the book, Tom, as an RBI single, but I'll tell you, those kind of singles that have eyes like that are sometimes an opponent manager's nightmare as a ball is drilled foul.
Well, it's frustrating for the fielders because they're all running so hard, and it's just one of those that it's just nobody's going to get to it.
Now, Tom, has this baseball field, we know, of course, the football field and the track is Jonas Lashmet Field, but as athletic director, we'll get back to that long fly ball down the right field line. The right fielder, Kazuka, comes up with it. The throw in, another run will score on the sacrifice fly by Jerry Hanyon. It's 3-0 Lincoln Way as right fielder Kazuka goes back to his position after fielding and making it a good play, almost good enough to pick off the runner at first base in Schuster. Zarnowski over at third base, Schuster at first, second base is open, and here's Jeff Meacher, the catcher. There goes the runner. They will throw down to second. It's in the dirt. Runner is safe. Zarnowski holds at third, and now first base is open. There you see Scott Schuster after his stolen base at second. So, Tom, is there a name going to be posted on this diamond, or maybe I'm unaware of that there already is?
Well, right now there is not a name for it. There hasn't been talk about putting one on there, but I'm sure that somewhere down the line we will probably end up naming the field for somebody.
Are they just waiting for you to retire in 1999 or 2000 or whenever you may get around to that?
Well, we don't talk about that. When that happens, that happens. We don't worry about those type of things either.
Well, I'll tell you what, the football field and the great renovation that's been done with the lights last season, the new press box, the track. I'll tell you, it's a class operation over there for football, track, and soccer. And, of course, the great Lincoln Way Marching Band that you see out there in the fall. A great place for athletics and their events during the course of the year.
Well, I don't know if you noticed when you came down here, but we're having the track painted, and
right.
That's going to be really a sharp-looking area. This summer, we're having the baseball field. We're getting some renovation work done here, and also the softball diamond over at East. So, you know, Dr. Wiley is really putting a lot of effort into the athletic facilities here at Lincoln Way.
Meacher looks at one in the dirt, gets away from the catcher. He lost it for a moment, but a good heads-up hustle off the mound by Davish to recover the loose ball. The runners hold. So Davish having a frustrating time of it out in the mound for Bolingbrook, and this is a kid who, with a 2-1 record on the year so far for the Bolingbrook Raiders, has shown some pretty good stuff earlier in the year. But one thing that has had a problem for him is early inning jitters. If he gets over the first couple of innings, he can be a pretty solid pitcher. Infield pulled in, second to first, gets the runner at first base, and Tannehill with the nice stop on the grass behind the mound throws the runner out at first. So Meacher in the 4-3 put out will bring up Mark Kalinowski. Kalinowski, the big lanky left-handed hitter and the only left-handed hitter in the lineup. The other ski over on third base and Zarnowski. Slow curve misses way outside. Kalinowski just hitting .208 on the season. But as Dave Bernhardt tells me, because of his 7 RBIs, he has been able to get some big hits for the team this year. When these hits come, they usually come at a good time. And right now, he has 2 runners in scoring position. Let's review those for you. Zarnowski over at third base, leading off the bag, and Scott Schuster at second. First base is open, backs off, ball gets away. Zarnowski will score standing up, make it 4-0 Lincoln Way, and Scott Schuster advances to third base. And again, as we talked about earlier, Tom, one aspect about this diamond that everyone has to be aware of is how deep it is behind the catcher. And on that pass ball, getting away from the Bolingbrook catcher, Begish, Zarnowski scores easily from third.
I think that weather might have had a little bit to do with it. It seemed to roll back there pretty slow.
Now, usually it'll come back pretty hard, pop off that back fence or the wood on the base of the fence and come right back into the catcher's hand. I saw Steve Hayes a couple of years ago, a former Lincoln Way catcher, actually take a rebound off that piece of board and get the runner out at the plate on a pass ball. And the base on balls to Kalinowski will put runners back at first and third, and the number 9 hitter in Dave Bernhard's order will get a chance to swing the aluminum here in the bottom of the first. Scott Hanyon, the twin brother of Jerry, will step in. Ball gets away again, and again a runner will score, make it 5-0 Lincoln Way. And the battery for Bolingbrook having a tough time of it here in the bottom of the first inning. Here's another look how this ball gets away, and again it's in the glove of the catcher Begich, but he just couldn't get a handle on it, and the ball gets away. Because it was in the dirt, will be ruled as a wild pitch, and that scores Schuster from third, and Kalinowski advances over to second base. And so with 2 outs here in the bottom of the first inning, Lincoln Way leading by that score, 5-0. Bolingbrook went down in 4 batters in the top of the first, so we'll see Harmeyer, Begich, Knoll, and Kamen in the second inning when Bolingbrook comes back up. There's Bruce Gerke out of Valparaiso University in Indiana. He was a third baseman in high school and college. Getting some exercise, heading out to the mound here in this first inning as Scott Hanyon drills one into the cage behind home plate. Scott on the year batting .231, has 3 RBIs, and has scored 10 times. And he hits a shot in the left field, will fall in for a base hit. Kalinowski will hold up at third wisely, too, I might add. And a solid single, the first solid hit of the game, actually, with the other 3 hits in the inning, all infield hits. So a big one, and the other pop-up that fell in the hole in right center. So here's the first solid hit of the game. And it will put runners again at first and third for Lincoln Way, and will bring up Brett Schuster for his second at-bat of the inning. In his first at-bat, he walked and later scored the first Lincoln Way run. There goes the runner. The throw will come down. Kalinowski will score without an attempt at a putout. 6-0 Lincoln Way here in the bottom of the first. A good solid throw by Begich, the Bolingbrook Raider catcher, down to second. But the Bolingbrook shortstop just couldn't get the ball out of his glove. There you see the hesitation after the head-first slide on the stolen base by Scott Hanyon.
Ever since we lost to Bolingbrook the other day, the bats have really been hot for the Knights, and they only scored 22 yesterday, which is an awful lot of runs. And, of course, now here the first inning, they got 7.
Well, we'll have a chance to talk about that Romeoville battering on Tuesday of this week. And you really bring up a good point that Dave Bernhard talked about, Tom, that prior to the game when we were sitting in the dugout, that I asked him about the revenge factor. Is there going to be a motivational thing? And you, of course, as a former coach, know how sometimes you can use that to motivate players. Sometimes it's something worth left alone. Dave said he definitely brought it up prior to the Romeoville game, and then the Knights went out and, well, just smothered the Spartans, 22-0. Here they're doing much the same to Bolingbrook, but right fielder Kazuta comes in and makes the catch on the running catch. Kazuta making 2 putouts here in the first inning on Schuster flying out in the first. But in the inning, the Lincoln Way Knights score 6 runs on 4 hits 2 were infield hits, including a bunt single. One was a Texas leaguer that had eyes, and the other that solid single by Scott Hanyon. So after 1 full inning of play, it's the Lincoln Way Knights 6 and the Bolingbrook Raiders nothing. Joe Passion up here along with Tom Lewis, the athletic director of Lincoln Way, has been kind enough to step in. Let's take a look at the Bolingbrook lineup as they line up for here. We saw Andy Nagy back there in the first inning along with Brian Tanahan. Mike Casey also batted in the top of the first, as did Mike Zabich. Zagurski. Harmeyer, the shortstop, will lead off this inning, followed by Derek Begich, the catcher. Mike Knoll at first base. Brian Kamen could see action at the plate in this inning, is out and left. And Jason Cozetta will not hit today, being hit for by the designated hitter Casey. And here's Chad leadoff, and he has a big lead here as the skies begin to clear up somewhat in the far southwestern skies. I'll tell you, it was really a crazy day here, Tom. Coming out here, 90-degree weather, sunshine and boiling. Could have boiled an egg on home plate as a shot up the middle. Good coverage over by Hanyon, and the 6-3 putout. Jerry Hanyon comes a long way over second base, making the play and the putout on Dave Harmeyer. So Harmeyer has to go back. He put it through. Looked like it might have a shot. But boy, what a great play. What a great range by Hanyon. The middle infield really is the focal point of the defensive prowess of this Lincoln Way Ball Club this year, Tom. At least that's what Dave Bernhardt has really been proud of, other than that 4-2 loss to Bolingbrook earlier this week when they committed 6 errors. But he really gives a lot of that credit to the middle of that infield, Jerry Hanyon at shortstop, and his capable second baseman, Scott Jakobic. As we look at Derek Begich, the Bolingbrook catcher at the plate, and the 2-0 delivery.
Well, the juniors this year, last year as sophomores, I believe they lost 1, maybe 2 games. I think it was 1 game. So, you know, he got some good support for the seniors that are here this year, and he had a good group of seniors to go. So when you complement the 2 groups, you can see what you're getting out here.
Three and 1 the count on Begich, looking at that 3-0 pitch. And swings and misses a bit late. Seemingly leadoff took a little off at fastball and got it snuck in on the inside. Leadoff's got 5 pitches that he goes with and tries to put one outside and an off-speed pitch, fouling it away. On deck for Bolingbrook will be Mike Knoll, the first baseman for the Raiders. Raiders had a tough go of it last year in the regular season, went 12-18 on the season, 4-8 though in conference, but all of a sudden they came alive in the playoffs last year when the Raiders reached the semifinals of the always tough Lockport Regional after upsetting Joliet Catholic in the regional quarterfinal. Lost 3-0 to Joliet Central. So a lot of people were impressed with a very young Bolingbrook Raider team last year as Begich strikes out, bringing up Mike Knoll. And as you brought up, what's been surprising about both Lincoln Way and Bolingbrook, well, Bolingbrook had a lot of experienced kids coming back this year. Lincoln Way really didn't, yet both teams are getting help from some underclassmen that are surprises. And a shot into the alley in right center for the first base hit of the game for the Bolingbrook Raiders. And Mike Knoll jumping on the first pitch by leadoff. And that'll bring up the number 9 hitter in Bruce Gerke's order, Brian Kamen, as Schuster out there in center field gets back into position, and Knoll begins his lead off first base.
Well, I'm sure that you've mentioned many times, Joe, that the baseball in this area is just fantastic. And week in, week out, you don't know what's going to happen as far as these teams when they're playing. I mean, it's just so equal as far as the talent. And like you mentioned last year in the state tournament, Bolingbrook.
A little slow roller down the third base line. Quick throw by the third baseman, Brett Schuster. A good play on his part, but does not get the runner pulling Kalinowski, the first baseman, off the bag. And at first base is Brian Kamen. Infield single in your book, and that advances Knoll over to second base, bringing up the leadoff hitter in the Bolingbrook order, Andy Nagy.
Bolingbrook makes it to the semifinals of the regional last year, and you know, you just don't know. It's great baseball around here.
And it really gets so hotly competitive once you get into the regional round. It's almost unfair that all those solid teams usually have anywhere from 3 to 5 Chicagoland area ranked teams in that Lockport Regional year in and year out.
I don't know if you were aware or not yet, but the parents came out over the vacation, and we are not going to be in that regional. We're going to be in a regional over at Andrew, which was sort of a shock and surprise to me.
So Lincoln Way will play in the Andrew Regional then?
Right. I know it might be a little bit easier way, although we're going to have some real good competition over there, but it's just, you know, that you look at that Lockport Regional every year, and it's just, it's a treat to go out and watch those games. And the crowds that they get to watch those teams that are playing, it's really a treat. I'm going to miss that. You know, you go into a new area, you play some teams that you haven't played. Sure, you're playing a lot of the same teams when you go to the regional over at Lockport, but it's just the competition is so great. You just see great baseball over there, and I'm going to miss that myself.
Well, that will make it very interesting as a wild pitch gets away. The runners advance to second and third. Over there at third base is Knoll, and at second base now is Brian Kamen. First base open for the hitter, Andy Nagy, who walked, advanced on a wild pitch, and now gets a chance to maybe advance some runners. Well, that will make it interesting simply because the games against Andrew, which are, of course, very important being Sicko West games, which will be next week or the week after in early May, as he strikes out and closes out the side here for Bolingbrook. No runs on one hit, no errors, and two men left aboard. We go to the bottom half of the second inning with Jakobic, Briscoe, and Zarnowski due up for the Lincoln Way Knights, who lead the Raiders 6-0.
Cablevision, more bang for the buck.
These days, a lot of drug deals take place in locker rooms. Unfortunately, a lot of these drug deals end up in a different kind of locker room. If you or someone you know has a drug problem, contact Habilitat. We can help.
The Lincoln Way Knights rocking the Bolingbrook Raiders here as we open up the bottom of the second after Lincoln Way scored 6 runs in the bottom half of the first inning and lead by that many, 6-0 here in the second. On the mound for the Bolingbrook Raiders, we have a new pitcher, the right fielder, Dan Harmeyer, has come in to pitch for the Bolingbrook Raiders. Harmeyer, rather, who had been out at shortstop, and switches. So we'll have some switches here for the Bolingbrook Raiders. A new right fielder for the Raiders. Moving out to right field will be Mel Thaddeson. And moving over to shortstop was the former right field, Jason Kazuda. So here's Dave Harmeyer, 5'9", 145-pound right-hand throwing senior, and he'll open it up against Jakobic. Jakobic, last time up, had an infield single, a hard grounder through the middle that was just hard enough to stay off the high grass, or stay on the high grass, rather, to get him in at first with an infield single. Shot down the right field line. Thaddeson going hard, but will not be able to catch up to it, and it goes foul for a strike. And the on-deck circle for the Knights will be Grabrisco and then Zarnowski. Joe Passion, along with Lincoln Way Athletic Director Tom Lewis, and biggest highlight of the year, I asked Dave Bernhardt before the game, and he goes, well, of course it was the doubleheader sweep over crosstown rival Providence Catholic High School. And I'm sure that was kind of one of those buttons that got popped for a day and a half with some pride.
Oh, I'm sure it was. That's
Ground to the second baseman, turns around, and the 360 off the knee and throws him out. A great play over at second by Brian Tannehill for Bolingbrook. I'll tell you what, one of the things that we're seeing here today is some great infield play by both teams. There's Tannehill going far to his left on his knee, throws the runner out at first base. So Jakovic gets a potential single stolen away by a great defensive play by Tannehill, and that'll bring up Ryan Grabrisco, who bunted on in his first at-bat in the first and then later scored. Harmeyer on the mound in relief of the starting pitcher, Davish. Well, that's always got to be a big thing, not only for the players, but certainly for the administration, faculty, and the hardcore baseball fans of New Lenox when that doubleheader goes one way or the other.
Well, it sure is. I know it's always nice to win that, but I sometimes wonder what kind of mind games the coaches are playing out there, because they know the big one comes at the end of the year in the regional, which, of course, we were talking about we won't be able to have it this year. But I know they didn't throw their best pitchers, but still, whoever wins it, that's a big victory for them. And we were real happy to see the kids. I was surprised, to be very honest. You know, Providence has always done well. Even with Butch Markell's coming in there, I've known Butch and seen what Butch has done over there. He's a real fine pitching coach. And Bob Shaper, I was talking to him after the ball game, and you know, everybody wants to win, and it's always a good one when you put those two together.
Little shot again at second baseman. Tannehill keeps it in front of him. Got to hurry, and he does for the putout. And that's 2 away. So Tannehill showing some great range and some gutsy defensive play at second base. Throws out Jakovic to start the inning on one knee, and then puts his chest into Grabrisco's ground ball to throw him out, and that'll bring up Joel Zarnowski, the designated hitter for the Knights. Walked and scored in his first at-bat in the first, and he fouls one off out of play behind home plate. Six to nothing Lincoln Way here in the bottom of the second under an overcast afternoon following a beautiful day of sunshine, and then about a 20-minute rain showers and thunderstorms that really drenched down the field, but a great job by the Lincoln Way grounds crew and the coaches to get the field playable. Game getting underway after a little bit of a delay, but playing baseball nonetheless. A shot into straightaway center field. Puts the center fielder back and gets off his feet to make the catch. Andy Nagy had to go high off his heels, and for a moment, it looked like Tom it was going to make it to the fence and maybe embarrass Nagy, but instead Nagy goes up high with a great leap and a vertical jump and pulls it down for the final out. And Lincoln Way, after scoring 6 runs in the first inning, go down 1-2-3 in the second. No runs, no hits, no errors, and nobody left. We go to the top of the third. The Knights leading the Raiders 6-0.
Hey, hey. New from the Trib, Preps Plus. Big league coverage of your community.
Back at Lincoln Way High School behind the Lincoln Way West Campus in New Lenox. As we look now on the Lincoln Way pitcher, there's a better look. And Chad Leadoff, the pitcher's first pitch hit into right field by Brian Tannehill. And that's a quick one away. Tannehill getting some good aluminum on the bat. That just doesn't sound the same, does it? Getting good aluminum on the ball?
Yeah, I think we're from the old school where we like those wooden bats and that sound that the wooden bat had.
I'll tell you, there's nothing like, I was out at the White Sox Cub Windy City Classic earlier in the week during batting practice down in the field at Wrigley Field in Chicago. And I'll tell you, there is nothing like hearing a baseball off a wooden bat, and then the coaches on either side of the cage hitting grounders, and has a kind of a romantic, magical sound to it.
Yes, it does. Of course, when you get my side of it, Joe, you got to start worrying about the money.
That's right. Well, you know, there can be no debate really on why they're being used, but it really is something. In fact, I was reading in the National, the new daily sports newspaper, about an aluminum bat that's out right now that it's kind of like these golf clubs that are coming out that really put a little bit more pop on the ball that Arizona State University has been using. Pop up again, out of play. The colleges, of course, can use aluminum bats, but once you get into the pros, even on the lowest level of the minor leagues, the wooden bats come back into play. Of course, they can afford them.
I think it is a financial thing, Joe, and it's probably good. You know, high schools and colleges, you start going through a lot of bats, and it's going to cost you a lot of money, but the pros, of course, can't afford it. So kids seem to have adjusted to them.
Mike Casey looks at a called strike 3 after battling leadoff here, and that's out number 2 in the third. Strikeout number 5 for pitcher Chad Leadoff. A man with a wide repertoire of pitches, has been using them all here. Here's Zagurski. Joe's first time up, he struck out, was the second strikeout of the day for Leadoff, the pitcher. Zagurski with a good active bat, makes good contact on the ball. And here he just tops it to the second baseman. A little scoop and throw by Jakobic, and that's the inning. 1-2-3 in the third for the Bolingbrook Raiders. The Raiders, who come in here 7-6 overall and 1-2 overall, can't get past Chad Leadoff as they go no runs on no hits, no errors, and nobody left. We go to the bottom of the third. Our score is still Lincoln Way leading the Raiders. We'll be back with more after this on our high school baseball game of the week.
Dear Mom, thanks for helping Janet and me with the new baby the past 2 weeks. You were there as always. But there was a time when I wasn't sure I wanted your help.
Oh, where'd you get that? From the store. I didn't know you had any money.
I didn't have any money.
I took this, and I'm sorry.
It takes a big man to face up to a mistake, son.
Thanks, Mom, for teaching me the hard lessons.
Family values. Your children need them now more than ever. From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
We open up the bottom of the third inning with Lincoln Way leading the visiting Bolingbrook Raiders 6-0, and leadoff hitter Scott Schuster grounds out to the second baseman in a hurry. And I'll tell you, Tannehill, the second baseman for Bolingbrook, has made 4 assists already here in just 2 1/3 innings, including assisting on 3 of the last 4 putouts by Lincoln Way. That'll bring up Jerry Hanyon, the outstanding defensive shortstop for the Lincoln Way Knights, who had a sacrifice fly RBI his first at-bat in that 6-run first inning by the Knights. High chopper off Harmeyer's glove. Shortstop charges quickly, but not in time. It'll be an infield single for Jerry Henyon. Some defensive changes made by Bolingbrook the previous innings, which we announced. Let's show them to you. First off, it's a new pitcher in Harmeyer out on the mound. He replaced Davish. Davish in the right corner of your screen is at first base now. The new shortstop for the Bolingbrook Raiders is the former starting right fielder, Jason Kazuda, and a new right fielder who came into the game last inning, number 10, Mel Thadson, way up high in the right corner of your screen. Here's Jeff Meacher, the catcher, and what a job Meacher has done since coming in for the last couple of weeks, replacing last year all-conference catcher. And forget about the fact that Dave Bernhardt Jr. is the son of the manager. He has earned his stripes with his play on the field, but also caught a bit of the mono a couple weeks ago and has been out as in uniform and dressed for today's game. And Dave says he hopes to get him in for an inning or so behind the plate and a couple at bats to work him back slowly in the lineup. But he says one of the real pleasant surprises that he's had this year, Tom, has been the depth. Guys that you don't necessarily count on, you just kind of hope they'll come through. And his juniors and some of the other backup players like Meacher, who was a third-string backup player, if you will, last year, has moved up this year and has really provided some classic depth for the Knights as he takes up base on balls.
I think that says a lot for Dave's staff on the lower levels. You know, they're getting the fundamentals. You're getting the ball players that come up and can fill in where you need them on that varsity level. And the total program, I think, that's where it shows. When you get up to the varsity level and you got that depth.
Well, that'll bring up Mark Kalinowski, who had a base on balls back in the first inning and scored. And he pops it up high and behind us, out of play for strike one. The new catcher, Brian Kamen, back behind the plate. Kamen, who started out in left field. Still trying to catch up with all the changes that Bolingbrook made defensively after that 6-run first inning by Lincoln Way. 0-1 the count on Kalinowski as Harmeyer, the pitcher, steps off the mound for a moment. Kalinowski, the only left-hand hitter in the Lincoln Way lineup. The 0-1 count makes it 0-2 after the called strike two. Kalinowski out of Summit Hill Junior High School, also a basketball player, a member of the National Honor Society, an Illinois State scholar. A lot of National Honor Society members and a valedictorian are members of this Lincoln Way baseball team, and I guess that says a lot about the whole system, doesn't it, Coach?
Yeah, it sure does, Joe.
One and two the count. Shot down the left field line, and a diving, scooping catch by the Bolingbrook left fielder sends the runners at first and second scurrying back for home. Boy, what a play out there in left field by Kamen. Kamen making a great play of it. We had inadvertently mentioned Kamen was behind the plate, but actually it is Mike Knoll that is behind the plate, number 19, not number 13 as I had thought I saw. Here's a shot in the hole down the right side into right field. Here comes a runner around third. There'll be no play at the plate, and sliding in with the run scorer is Jerry Henyon. Advancing to third is Meacher, and an RBI single for Scott Henyon down the line. I'll tell you what, Scott Henyon has been a busy hitter. Here's Thaddeson, brings it into the cutoff man on the mound, but he saw there was no play and made sure that the runner from first did not advance to second. But one Henyon bats in another, and I guess that's what you call a real brotherhood work, huh?
Right.
7-0 Lincoln Way. Speaking of brothers, here's Brett Schuster, whose brother, Scott Schuster, will be a few more batters away. All twins, by the way. Up high for a ball. 1-0 the count. From here, the Lincoln Way Knights will be hosting the Lockport Porters. Veteran coach Clyde Odell on Friday the 27th here in New Lenox. And then on Saturday, we'll host a doubleheader beginning at 11 in the morning against Rich South High School. Then it's on the road the following week for the Knights when they play at Lockport's Flink Field on Monday, April 30th, and then at Joliet West on Wednesday, May 2nd. The kick and the delivery fouls away behind the home plate. Keeps the count at 1 ball, 2 strikes. 2 outs here in the bottom of the third. 7-0 Lincoln Way. Coming up in the top of the fourth for the Raiders will be Dabish, Harmeyer, and the right fielder for Bolingbrook, Thaddeson. Here's the 1-2 delivery. Curveball kind of floats in there to the shortstop. Bobbles the ball. Everybody's safe, and Meacher scores. Meacher comes across with the 8th run of the ball game, and that's how many the Lincoln Way Knights lead over Bolingbrook. So our errors really hurt Lincoln Way Monday night of this week against the Raiders. This time the Raiders are getting hurt by the same. Here's Scott Jakobic, who has already shown us that he can play second base with the best of them out there as he looks at a called strike one. He also can hit a pretty good baseball, batting .366 on the year. Jakobic with 7 RBIs. Still looking for his first over-the-fence ball of the year. And this one off the handle of the bat, and the second baseman comes over to his left and makes the play, and that retires the side. But in the inning, the Lincoln Way Knights get 2 more runs on 2 hits, 1 error, and 2 men left aboard. We go to the top half of the 4th inning of play here in New Lenox with the score Lincoln Way 8 and the Raiders nothing. We'll be back with more of our high school baseball game of the week after this timeout.
I remember in 9th grade, before I got my first part, there was the time I didn't make the school play. And to me, the world had ended. So I came home after school and was crying in my room for at least a couple of hours when my dad came in. And there we sat, at least until midnight, with me sobbing and my dad just listening to me telling things like how I read over that final list of names on the drama room door at least 20 times while praying I'd see Victoria Stewart among the other names that had made it. And, you know, he didn't tell me some story about how he didn't make the football team in junior high or how there would be other things to look forward to. In fact, he really didn't try to tell me anything. I just remember he listened. He really listened to me.
If you're listening to your teenagers, now you're talking. From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Quality Control wants us over at Tower 5. They're upgrading reception again.
Tower 5 is 517 feet tall, Ed.
At Continental Cablevision, we'll go to any length to make sure your picture's perfect.
I don't see those guys from Quality Control around, Ed.
I do.
You don't suppose they'll come down for this, do you, Ed? Do you?
Continental Cablevision. We're #1 because we make you #1.
We go to the top half of the 4th inning here in New Lenox with the score Lincoln Way leading their visitors from Bolingbrook 8-0. Joe Passion alongside Tom Lewis here in our Channel 15 Baseball Game of the Week broadcast booth. Just to the left behind home plate and leading off the 4th is number 14, Davish, and he hits a hard grounder to the shortstop. Big throw, and even Kalinowski cannot come down with it. The throw from the catcher backing up gets away, and a heads-up play by the Lincoln Way catcher, and almost getting a runner over at second base.
Dave's son's back in there now catching. I mentioned that before.
Dave Bernard Jr. behind home plate now after being out the last couple of weeks with mono and showing no ill effects from that illness, as he really stepped down the first base line to back up that bad throw, and not only possibly avoiding the runner advancing to third, but almost threw out the runner at second. Here's Dave Harmeyer. Bernhardt also showing off his arm by tossing it down, but getting past Hanyon. So Bernie Jr. wasting no time and limbering up out there.
I think they have to realize out there they got a different catcher, because Dave will throw it a little bit more, I think, than Metro will, so they better be awake out there.
Harmeyer out of Jane Addams Junior High School. Also a National Honor Society member for Bolingbrook. In fact, here's a kid that really remembers that game last year. Harmeyer considers that win over Catholic Eye in the regionals last year as his athletic highlight. Over at second base is Dabish, dabbing off the bag, and just popped away off the top of the bat, fouls off for a 1-2 count. And the on-deck circle will be Mel Thaddeson, a senior right fielder, who was part of the major defensive shakeup after that first inning, 6-run inning by Lincoln Way. And going for an outside pitch, it just kind of slid away. I don't know if that was a slider or possibly the split-fingered fastball that this young man, Thad Leadoff, will throw an assortment of pitches, and he really had that one moving away from the right-handed hitter for the strikeout. Strikeout number 6 on the afternoon for the pitcher Leadoff, and here's Mel Thaddeson, and he gets one off the top of the bat down the third base line. Thaddeson is also a varsity soccer player for Bolingbrook, and they've had some outstanding soccer teams over the past few years.
I believe they won the conference this year in soccer, Joe.
What's a baseball game in Lincoln Way without the Metro line letting us know that things are still okay in America. Here's Thaddeson, good-looking athlete, left-handed hitter. A lot of speed. Got some great range out there in right field, as we saw by the one he ran down to end the last inning. 8-0 Lincoln Way here in the top of the 4th. And he fouls one off behind home plate. Mel's also an avid skier. Mike Knoll in the on-deck circle. Runner leading off second base for Thaddeson with 1 out here in the top of the 4th. Throw back over, and the runner is back in time as the ball gets away for just a moment. The pitcher, Chad Leadoff, a senior, big kid at 6'2", 220 pounds out of Summit Hill Junior High School. Also played some basketball. Wants to graduate from college with an accounting degree. Although I'm not quite sure, I didn't get a chance to ask any of the players, Tom. Maybe you can enlighten us on why Chad's nickname is Hollywood.
Oh, I'm not really sure of that one, Joe.
Inside, little chest music backs Mel away from the plate. Could it possibly be because his favorite hobby is girl watching, or?
Well, I'm sure there's something that happened that where the kids picked up on it.
And this one fouled off down the line, and it will be fair. Check that. It just go foul. So back over to second base goes Dabish. And back to home plate to try it again is Mel Thaddeson. Third baseman Schuster getting back into position there for Lincoln Way, and Chad leadoff. Chad Hollywood leadoff. Chad's a real music lover, you know. He's not only into the classics, like Led Zeppelin, not Beethoven, but the other classics. Gets away for a ball outside and getting a very interesting confrontation here on the mound between this young man and the pitcher. Mel Thaddeson working it to a 3-2 count. Runner on second with one out for the Raiders here in the top of the fourth. And it is a called strike three on the outside corner, bringing a bit of a surprise look to the hitter Thaddeson, but bringing strikeout number 7 to the pitcher leadoff. Well, that'll bring up Mike Knoll, the junior out of Northview Junior High School, a 3-sport athlete, football, basketball, and now here in baseball. Chips it off the plate, and it will be a foul ball. Mike there, number 19, big kid at 6'2", 190. Not only an outstanding 3-sport athlete, how he finds the time, I'll never know. He's a major of chemistry. He plans to study in sports medicine in college, and I guess he's got the background for it. He is an honors student.
You don't see an awful lot of 3-sport athletes anymore, Joe.
Little chopper off in front of the plate. Charging as hard is the third baseman Schuster, and he throws him out. Schuster had the angle running in from third base and throws the runner out at first. And so after the fourth inning here, the top of the fourth, for Bolingbrook, no runs, 1 hit, no errors, and a man left aboard. We go to the bottom of the fourth, and the Lincoln Way Knights have Grabrisco, Zarnowski, and Schuster coming to the plate. We're back under overcast skies here to open up the bottom of the fourth. 8-0 Lincoln Way as the Bolingbrook Raiders out on the field. Bolingbrook has somewhat come together since Harmeyer took over on the mound for Dabish in the first after Lincoln Way scored 6 runs in the bottom half of the first. Let's take another look at that Lincoln Way lineup for those of you who may have tuned in a little bit late. The leadoff hitter, Brett Schuster. The third baseman, Scott Jakobic. Playing over at second, Ron Grabrisco, the right fielder. Grabrisco will lead it off this inning, followed by Zarnowski and Scott Schuster. One of the Hanyon twins at shortstop. Jeff Meacher has been replaced at catcher by Dave Bernhardt Jr. Kalinowski out at first base, the other Hanyon in left field, and Chad, the leadoff, has been doing a great job, not hitting for himself, but out on the mound. Here's Ron Grabrisco, 5'10", 170 senior out of Frankfort Junior High School. Looks at a ball one. Let's set the Bolingbrook defense for you again from left to right. Brian Kamen out in left field. Andy Nagy in center. And the right fielder is Mel Thaddeson. From third to first for the Raiders, Joe Zagurski over at the hot corner. Shortstop Dave Harmeyer started at short, but now pitching has been replaced over at shortstop by the starting right fielder, Jason Kozuto. At second base, Brian Tannehill. Over at first base is the starting pitcher, Mike Davish. And a fly ball off the handle could find eyes. Here comes the quick-footed Thaddeson. Can't catch up to it, and Grabrisco has his second hit of the ball game to lead off the bottom of the fourth for the Knights. Tell you, this is a tough pitch to hit for anybody. Comes in hard, but he got out in front of the ball and got just enough aluminum on it. And Thaddeson, who's got great speed, almost speared that ball out of the air, but comes up short, but not on his effort. Here's Joel Zarnowski, 5'10" senior out of Oakview Junior High School. Also an outstanding football player. Did not go out for the team during the summer baseball league. Instead chose to work with his football and weights in the football passing league. And I'll tell you what, by his biceps and the power he shows at the plate, he obviously has been doing quite a good job at that.
Yeah, Joel did a real nice job this year leading the football team at quarterback.
Zanowski will be going to Illinois State University next season. The delivery misses, makes it 1-2 the count on Zarnowski. Jose Canseco is his favorite baseball player. By the way, he's got that stance of his. Biceps kind of reminds you of Jose just a little bit. I hope he doesn't drive like Canseco does. But I'll tell you what, a great running play by Ron Grabrisco, and he slides in head first with a stolen base. Ron Grabrisco over at shortstop, the valedictorian of Lincoln Way High School, #1 in his class. 4.62 GPA, I understand, on a 4-point scale, taking a lot of college preparatory advanced courses. Throw over, Grabrisco is back in time.
We don't have weighted grades, Joe, so that means that he's taken a lot of honors courses where he can get the pluses and things like this that would put him above that 4-point. That's just a fantastic average.
Pops it up right side, a lot of room over there, but it will go out of play right behind our first base cameraman. But he's okay, don't worry. Count evens at 2-2. 8-0 Lincoln Way. In case you've just joined us, the Knights scoring 6 runs on 4 hits in the first inning. Chasing starting pitcher Mike Dabish. Harmeyer came on, put down the Knights 1-2-3 in the second. Knights scored a couple more, though, in the third. And here, Harmeyer getting Zarnowski on a called strike 3. That'll bring up the center fielder, Scott Schuster, the junior out of Frankfurt Junior High School, also a basketball player. Went 4 for 7 in that doubleheader sweep against Providence, and he hits a long fly ball. Deep left field, way back. So long, Mr. Rawlings. That ball is gone, and Scott Schuster hits a 2-run homer to give the Knights an important 10-0 lead here in the fourth. And for Schuster, his 10th and 11th RBIs of the year and his first home run of the season.
Just like a golf shot on that one. He got underneath that thing and it just went.
I'll tell you, as we take another look at this, Scott got it all, and as Tom mentioned, he got under it, and it just disappeared beyond the left field fence. And all the left fielder can do back there, Brian Kanan, is just look at the ball roll away as Scott Schuster practices his very first home run trot of the year. And that'll bring up Jerry Hanyon. Jerry has also been productive today, 2 RBIs, including a sacrifice, or check that, 1 RBI and a sacrifice fly. Also has an infield single and scored in the third. 3 RBIs today for Scott Schuster. Beside the 2-run homer, also had an RBI single back in that 6-run first. Jerry Hanyon, the twin brother of Scott Hanyon, both out of Summit Hill Junior High. I'll tell you, that'd be quite something else for the parents, Jerry and Peggy, to bring these two kids up. They're just juniors, playing in football and in baseball, but both are honor roll students. So Jerry and Peg, you must be doing something an awfully lot right, because you really directed these kids in the proper path.
You know, their freshman, sophomore year, they played basketball too, so that was a real busy family.
Hard grounded to the third baseman. In front of him could be a play, and gets Henyon at first base. Heads up, gutsy play by third baseman Joe Zagurski, who got in front of that ball and used that barrel chest of his to get into it. Let's take another look. And I'll tell you, the hot corner, always a tough position. You got to have people to do this. Zagurski keeps the ball in front of him and then keeps his head to run out a very fleet-footed but disappointed Henyon, Jerry out on the 5-3 putout. So that's 2 away, and that'll bring up Dave Bernhard Jr., who replaced Jeff Meacher last inning. This is Bernie Jr.'s first at-bat in almost 2 weeks because of the mono that he contracted a few weeks ago. In the 9 previous at-bats that Dave Jr. has had, he has 1 RBI and 3 hits, batting .333. So this is really still just the first week of the season for Dave Bernhard Jr. All-conference selection last year. Of course, you have to remember, Dave is an all-conference selection as a sophomore. He is just a junior out of Oakview Junior High. And he hits a shot into left center field, and that will fall in for a single, and a long single. And what a great classic power swing Dave Bernhard Jr. has, and he puts a runner aboard for Mark Kalinowski. And as we take another look at the swing by Bernhard Jr., I'll tell you what, he looks the ball right onto the bat and watches it fly. Right there into left center. The center fielder, Andy Nagy, fielding it well and holding Bernhard to a single. A little powwow out on the mound for the Bolingbrook Raider coach, Bruce Jerky, and his pitcher, Harmeyer. The sun beginning to shine here in the 4th inning at New Lenox after it's shone all day long until about a half an hour before game time when the showers came down. And Lincoln Way with a 10-run lead here. Of course, if they hold this lead through the top half of the 5th, that will be all she wrote.
Like we were saying before, Joe, the bats have really come alive for the Knights in the last couple of ball games. I don't know if it was the fact of losing that game to Bolingbrook before and they did some soul searching or what, but boy, they sure have been hitting the ball well last couple of games.
Well, Tom, since I have you here in the booth, one of Dave Bernhard Jr.'s over at first base is Kalinowski, swings and fouls him behind home plate. I asked a lot of the players and their player bio cards they filled out if there was one thing they could change in the world, what would it be? And Dave Bernhard Jr. says put grass around our infield instead of the stones and get lights for our field. So there you have it.
Well,
you've already got the grass coming in this summer.
Grass is coming.
You know what a headache it is to get lights under a field. So, Dave, you may not be around if that ever comes to pass.
Well, he'll have a little shock when he sees it happening, right?
Here's the delivery, and a beautiful diving catch by the Bolingbrook third baseman, Joe Zagurski. He made a great play earlier in the inning to throw out one Hanyon, and this time comes up to dive and steal one from Kalinowski. But boy, oh boy, what a third base Zagurski has played here, and just off the bat of the left-handed hitter Kalinowski. And let's take another look at this. Ball hit hard, low, but what a great diving Brooks Robinson style George Brett catch over at third base by Joe Zagurski. But in the inning, Lincoln Way scores 2 vital runs. A single by Grabrisco and the 2-run homer, his first of the year, by Scott Schuster. 3 hits in all in the inning, no errors, and a man left aboard. We go to the top half of the 5th, and the 10-run rule in effect here. Bolingbrook must score at least 1 run for the game to go into the bottom of the 5th. They're going to need a couple because a team that leads by 10 runs or more after 5 innings of play is ruled the winner in the IHSA Baseball League throughout the state, and that, of course, holds up right here in this game. And speaking of wild 10-run rule games, both these teams were involved in one of the same earlier in the week, although they were very different. Bolingbrook lost 12-2 to Sika West leader Andrew High School on Tuesday of this previous week. Andrew with a 3-0 conference mark coming into their Wednesday game. And Lincoln Way, after losing 4-2 to Bolingbrook on Monday night of this week, came back the very next evening on Tuesday and blew out Romeoville 22-0. The Knights scored 13 runs in the second inning, giving Ron Grabrisco his third win of the year and his second no-hitter of the year. In fact, Grabrisco gave up a base runner in his first at-bat, was on an error, and then retired 15 in a row against Romeoville. Retired him the rest of the way. Well, right now, Chad leadoff hasn't been that perfect, but almost. He has given up only 2 hits against the Raiders here and strikes out Brian Kamen. Strikeout number 8 for the starting pitcher, Chad leadoff.
He'd be throwing as strong right now as he was at the beginning of the game.
Hey, leadoff, really, here's another look at that strikeout, and he just jams Kamen inside for strikeout number 8. Here's the leadoff hitter, Andy Nagy. Nagy, a senior football player. They call him Orv. Looks at one in the dirt. Evens the count at 1 ball and 1 strike. Should the game come to a conclusion after this half inning of the 5th, stay with us for our post-game coverage after the show as we talk with Dave Bernhardt and a couple of players. Ball back into the screen. Brian Tannehill in the on-deck circle for the Bolingbrook Raiders, retrieving that ball. Nagy 0 for 1 today. He walked and advanced on a wild pitch in the first inning, but was left stranded and struck out to end the second. Here trying to start a rally for the Raiders. And he chips one foul, battling Chad leadoff, the pitcher who has been in command throughout the game here today for the Knights on the mound. The Lincoln Way defense, for a brief one in case you've missed it, from left to right, Scott Hanyon, Scott Schuster in center, out in right field, Ron Grabisco. From third to first, Brett Schuster, Jerry Hanyon. At second base, Scott Jakobic, and at first, Mark Kalinowski. The battery started out as Chad leadoff on the mound. He remains there. Jeff Meacher started out behind the plate, but was relieved by Dave Bernhardt in the third. Chipped out foul again and away. Our next high school baseball game of the week telecast here on Channel 15 will feature Andrew at Lockport next week, and that should be a dandy. A ball 4, and a patient Andy Nagy draws his second base on balls. And leadoff will have to work from a different motion out on the mound as he faces Brian Tannehill for the third time here today. Brian, a senior out of B.J. Ward Junior High School, also a 3-sport athlete, basketball, football, and baseball. And he's got the right idea. He's going into hotel restaurant management, and where else to go for that than one of the schools that's known for more than just basketball, UNLV. In fact, they have an outstanding separate college there, UNLV, for hotel restaurant management. Of course, you get some great internship possibilities out there in Las Vegas.
That's very true. That's very true. What a super year they had this year in basketball, huh, Joe? That was Nice ball club they had.
That was like watching men against boys in the NCAA Final Four. 1-1 count, and curveball just getting inside the corner of the plate. Off-speed pitch, leadoff on the mound, really having command of his pitches here today. Tanny, as we look at Bruce Durkee in the third base coach's box, Tanny backs away from one. Tannehill's also a piano player, collects baseball cards. So this is a kid who does it all. And he looks at a called strike 3. Strikeout number 9 for pitcher Chad Leeloff.
You know, sitting here listening to you, Joe, talking about all the different things that these kids have done as far as hobbies and grades and things like that. It's really something. It's amazing that all the time and effort and to see these things happen with these kids is just fantastic. This is what makes it worth it to be involved with athletics.
Well, you've been around for a lot of years. As the ball gets away from Bernhard on a wild pitch, and a runner will advance over the second base. Bernhard throws it down just to let the runner know that I'm not suffering from mononucleosis anymore. It is the second, check that, third wild pitch of the game thrown by Chad Leedoff. Although he has 9 strikeouts, and for the most part has had command of his pitches here today. As a runner at second now behind him, and Michael Casey, 5'11", 150-pound senior. And he hits a shot in the center field. This could be it, and it is to the center fielder for Lincoln Way. Scott Schuster wraps it up, and with the 10-run rule here in high school baseball, that is the end of the ball game. In the 5th for Bolingbrook, no runs on no hits, no errors, and a man left aboard. The final score, the Lincoln Way Knights bring their record to 11-4 overall and 3-1 in conference with a 10-0 5-inning victory over the visiting Bolingbrook Raiders, who fall to 7-7 on the overall and 1-3 in conference. We'll be back with our post-game coverage of our high school baseball game of the week after this timeout.
It's you and Continental, for you variety. It's you having choices in the shows you want to see.
All right, down here on the field as the trains pass beyond the horizon, another victory here on the field for the Lincoln Way Knights, who up the overall now to 11 wins and 4 losses, and now 3-1 in conference. With me, the winning coach, Dave Bernhard, and that's going to be a big plus for you after the surprise loss earlier in the week to this Bolingbrook team. You beat them here 10-0. What turned it around?
I don't know. I just think we decided we're a little bit better ball club than we showed last Monday night. And you know, last night we won 22-0, and tonight 10-0. And I just think we kind of put it in our minds that, hey, you know, it's time to show what we can do. And maybe we did here the last 2 nights.
Something, too, that really's got to please you is the spark in the big innings. 13 innings in the second inning and that 22-0 victory over Romeoville, and then the big 6-run inning here, giving someone like your pitcher, Chad Leadoff, a big, big plus to work with.
You know, and we're not necessarily a big inning team because we don't have the hammers, I think, that'll take it out, even though Scott hit one out here just a little while ago. But I think we create big innings as much by our bunting, our running, and as well as hitting some line drives. I mean, the first inning today, I thought was created by Ron Gabrisco's base hit bunt. I mean, he puts the ball down 60 feet down the line, and it starts a big inning. So I just think we have an awful lot of offensive weapons up and down the lineup, and we don't have to hit the ball out.
You told me prior to the season that one of the real cautious aspects of this year to you was the pitching and its depth. Right now, that's really become a pleasant surprise for this staff, hasn't it?
Really has, and it's kind of unfortunate because once you're done being surprised, then you come to expect it. But yeah, guys like, you know, we knew Mark Kalinowski would be there. He's one of the top pitchers in the area, and we expected Chad to have an excellent year. I think Chad's exceeded our expectations right now, and then you throw in Ron Gabrisco and Pat Hickey and Jason Goldie and right on down, and that is one of our big pluses, that we think we can go to 4 or 5 pitchers deep and be effective, and that's something we didn't know a month and a half ago.
You got Bolingbrook behind you, even though with a split here in the conference schedule this week, but in front of you, you got 2 facing Lockport, and of course, Andrew down the line, and Lincoln Way, Lockport, and Andrew are the 3 schools that most coaches talk about as the 3 top contenders in the SICA West. How vital are they for you now that Lincoln Way will be playing in the Andrew Regional and not, as it's been its history, in the Lockport Regional?
Well, our goal, first of all, is to win the conference. And we think, you know, despite what we did Monday night, which really hurt us, we've got a shot. But we've got to knock off Lockport twice. We've got to knock off Andrew twice. And I don't know how many teams can do that. But we love to play Lockport. It just seems like every time Lockport and Lincoln Way get together, it's just a great ball game. I mean, one way or another. And so we're looking forward to this Friday to get after them. And then later on, of course, we have Andrew. And it is kind of different now that we're not, you know, going to the Joliet Regional. And it's still important to win our conference because over there with us at the regional will be Andrew, and of course if we can win the conference, that means should help us as far as a higher seed goes in that regional. It'll be a different feeling though. I feel like kind of an outsider now.
Well, I don't know at this early date what the seeding for that Andrew Regional in Tinley Park will be, but coming up in just 2 weeks here on our high school baseball game of the week, we may just see the Andrew Regional preview when Andrew visits Lincoln Way here, and we'll have that as one of our upcoming high school baseball games of the week. Thanks so much for being here, and best of luck down the road. Looks like it's going to be a rough one.
Well, we've got the guys that can handle it. I mean, we've got the competitive kids, and you know, we're going to get after it. I appreciate your patience sticking around through the rain.
Oh, no, it was fun. I'm glad it did. We even had the sun shining finally. Thanks so much, Dave.
Thanks, Joe.
Stay with us. Our post-game show continues as we talk with a couple of those pleasant surprises on the hill this year for the Knights. We'll be back in just a moment.
Okay, what's the ideal peak to valley on a 32-amp cascade? 4.2 decibels. Yeah!
At Continental Cablevision, we send our people to school every year to make sure you get the best service possible.
What's the average level behind a customer's TV set? 0 dBmV. Beautiful. Last question. What is the most important component of the entire system? The customer. Ready, let's go to school.
Continental Cablevision. We're #1 because we make you #1.
Hi, I'm Susan St. James, and as much as I love my teenage kids, sometimes they say and do things that don't exactly bring out my most tender, loving instincts. But it helps me to remember that they need me now more than ever. Most kids, even though they won't admit it, want their parents' guidance. They want their parents' approval. But above all, they want their parents' respect as they learn to make their own choices for the first time and to begin to feel good about who they are. Believe in your kids and help them believe in themselves.
Another short game, but a big victory here for the Lincoln Way Knights as they take care of Bolingbrook 10-0, avenging an earlier 5-2 loss to the Raiders at Bolingbrook earlier in the week, and also following a 22-0 5-inning victory over Romeoville also earlier in the week. Two of the reasons why have been guys on the mound, Ron Grabisco over here on my left, and the winning pitcher of today's game to go 3-0 on the year, Chad Leadoff. First off, Coach Bernhardt brought up a good point in our interview a moment ago. That bunt single you laid down in that first 6-run inning especially with the high, wet grass. It really kind of opened the floodgates for a big inning. Were you thinking about that when you thought about bunting?
I knew the grass would be kind of slow, so I tried to hold on to the bat a little tighter and push it out there and keep my barrel up. Just try to put it down, get the guy to second and third so we could hit him in.
Yeah, well, it certainly gave a big inning for the Lincoln Way hitters, and that's got to give a pitcher a lot of confidence going out there when you know you got a 6-run inning, all of a sudden 2 more, and all of a sudden it's 8-0, and you're not even in the third.
Yeah, it really gives a pitcher a lot of confidence to know when you go out on a mound that the guys in the field are behind you and that they can do the same job with the bats, too. Lately, we've been hitting the ball last 2 games, and that's what we need to do to win.
Talking with Coach Bernhardt before the game, Chad, he tells me about your 5 pitches in your repertoire. What pitch did you work with the most? I saw you throw a lot of off-speed pitches, not always being able to recognize them. A couple got away, but for the most part, 9 strikeouts unofficially today, and that's a big plus for you, considering it seemed as though you had command of most of your pitches.
Well, today it was when it's humid outside, nice and warm. So I like to really throw all the pitches. I got a lot of control with them. So no, but the biggest pitch I like to throw when I'm ahead of the hitters, when there's no on base, is my split finger. I worked on that a lot in the off season, and it's just a real plus to know that you can throw any one of your pitches on a nice day like today.
Ron, as a pitcher yourself, and with 2 no-hitters already to your credit this year, how valuable has it been for you guys to have someone who's been around the baseball block as long as assistant coach Jim High has, who handles the pitchers? What has it meant for you guys in your repertoire of pitches and the control you've been able to get on them?
He's helped us a lot with our fundamentals and everything. I mean, he's a great pitching coach, and he gives us confidence when we're on the mound, and he just lets us throw our own game and lets us call our own pitches and see what's going for us.
2 no-hitters this year. Is that putting any pressure on you, or is it something that you're really enjoying rather than feeling that, as Dave said, maybe expectations are going to be a little bit higher for the pitching staff now after how well you guys have performed earlier in the year?
No, myself, I didn't expect to pitch so much. So when I get out there, I just try to have fun. And we've been playing great defense, and we got quick outfielders. I'm an outfielder too. And quick outfielders cut the ball off in the gaps and stuff, and so I think we got some good defense behind us.
A little bit of a surprise that the fact that Lincoln Way will not be in what has been historically such a great regional at Lockport year in, and you guys are going to be at the Andrew Regional in Tinley Park. I know this is news to you guys just before this interview, but what do you feel about that, knowing how tough Andrew is this year, and maybe how much more important those Sitka West games will be with the Thunderbolts this season?
Well, we're looking forward to being in the Andrew Regional this year. Past we've been in with Lockport and Providence, and they're good teams, but going to this Andrew Regional isn't going to be a piece of cake either. You got some good teams in there, but if we keep playing like we did today and like we did yesterday, we'll do pretty good.
Coming up this week, you got Lockport for a couple, Ron, and then Andrew after that. Is the team right now on a high, putting that loss to Bolingbrook behind you and feeling pretty good about these 2 5-inning wins?
Yeah, I think we're still on the way up. I think I didn't think we played that great today. I think we can still get better, and I see a lot of places for improvement out there too.
Well, I don't see a lot, but I'll tell you what, wherever you can get them, that's going to really lead to some great success for you guys today, Ron Grabrisco and Chad Leadoff. 2 outstanding pitchers, pretty good outfielder as well when he's not on the mound. Guys, thanks so much. I'll let you go, and I'll finish up here. Congratulations, Lincoln Way, a win here today, 10-0 to up the overall now to 11-4 on the year, 3-1 in the Sitka West. For the Lincoln Way Knights, winning pitcher Chad Leadoff, now 3-0 on the season. The numbers for the Knights, 10 runs on 9 hits, 1 error, and 4 men left aboard for Lincoln Way's Coach Dave Bernhardt. For the Bolingbrook Raiders and Coach Bruce Jerky, they fall to 7-7 overall, 1-3 now in Sitka West Conference play. And for the Raiders, Mike Dabish, the losing pitcher, 2-2 now in the season as he struggled early in that big 6-run inning in the first for Lincoln Way. For the Raiders, no runs, 2 hits, 1 error, and 6 men left aboard for Bolingbrook. Our final score again here today, 10-0. The Lincoln Way Knights beat the Bolingbrook Raiders. Coming up on our next baseball game of the week will be Joliet Central at Lockport in another battle, the Steelmen against the Porters. For Tom Lewis, who sat in with us for a few innings, and all of our crew here who stood in through the rain and even on in here for the post-game sunshine, I'm Joe Passion saying so long from New Lenox. We'll see you next week in Lockport on our next high school baseball game of the week.